We're getting set for Mike Carlucci's The Bottom Line, brought to you by the CBI, Carlucci Broadcast International, and it starts now. Yeah. Well, hello, everyone. We're back at it. It's Mike Carlucci's The Bottom Line. So good of you to join us in this very strange and bizarre year 2020. And we're back at it here, moving around politics and sports, taking a break from the sports. Now it's back into politics. And, of course, you could only get the best guy out there to talk about politics and all kinds of fun things. Here he is, ladies and gentlemen. He is the man amongst men, the king of kings. You know him, I know him, we love him, Mr. Richard Boddie. Richard, how you doing, my friend?
Hello, hello, Mike. The build up was so good. I was falling for it. Good to be back.
All right. I thought you were going to say, hello, Chicago. Anyway, Richard Boddie, a famed political activist. He also taught political science and history for many years in the college circuit. Also, he was an attorney and still is a freelance consulting attorney. And he also has done a lot of work with unions. And, of course, the big thing, in 1992, he was the Libertarian presidential possible nominee candidate, got nudged out. And he would, of course, been the first official African-American to run for president if that would have happened. But nonetheless, it was cool that he did that. He was a fantastic speaker on the Libertarian Party circuit, and he still is. I'm going to talk about that candidate here in just a little bit. But first off, my friend, so good of you to be here and joining us, and glad you're doing well. You look good. And how's your health? Everything good in the body home?
It's slow, though. It's slow. I have to adjust to no gyms, and with no gyms, I sleep about every 2 or 3 hours. I fall asleep.
Yeah, I sometimes get on the same boat. You just sit there and you kind of do a few tasks in home, and then you just sit there. And even though you had a nice sleep and you feel energetic, but if you just sit there, boom, you could just be out for a little while. So I'm on the same boat as you are, my friend.
Anesthesia, yeah.
Yeah, and plus this heat is not the best thing here in Southern California. But nonetheless, you're in your home there, home studio in Huntington Beach, and I'm in my place up here in the North Los Angeles area. And first off, we got so many topics to hit, and that goes without saying. First off, we just got the news here recently that the president of the United States and his wife, the first lady, they've been tested positive for COVID-19. What's the deal with that?
The testing, I have to, let me just back up on that. That's been the big news in recent hours. What does one do to get tested? All of a sudden you're walking down the street and then boom, you get tested? You have to, the way it's spoken of, it's like all of a sudden it's something you catch. Wow, what do you got? I got tested for COVID-19. I don't understand the process. He must have had to go somewhere, have somebody with a stethoscope or some sort of medical type instrument do something to him and her. And then they'd say, oh, orange face, you have whatever. But it just seems almost ironic to me that here's a guy walking around with no mask, blowing off steam with the debates or whatever they call it, being as arrogant as he is. Somebody snuck up behind him and tested him. How the hell did this happen? I don't understand.
You're being like George Carlin. I think it's funny, but the deal is he has been tested positive along with the first lady. And there's a couple of White House aides that were tested positive as well. He most likely obtained the COVID-19 positive test within those parameters, if you will. But I think he had some symptoms, mild symptoms, and the first lady had actually extreme symptoms, and they both were tested. They were brought in and said, hey, time for a test. Okay. But nonetheless, you're right. If it's just at random, it's like, hey, come here. I'm going to test you. I'm going to test you. Yeah. Right. I'm going to test you right now. Come here. So who knows? But so there's some precautionary measures going on in the White House now. They are self-isolating, and they are getting ready to find out if the debate is going to be going further. They say maybe by October 15th, if he's not up and at 'em physically, he'll do a virtual debate there with Joe Biden. So speaking of which, let's move into that road. We'll just get off the off-ramp here and talk about that first debate, which was last week, a lot of people thought that it was a debacle, a circus, two-year-olds going at it, and also the issue with the microphones maybe should have been cut off because no one could finish. Trump kept interrupting. Biden was throwing in some flares, calling him a clown and telling him he's the worst president and all, the whole thing. It was like two-year-olds going at it. And on the scale of 1 to 10, there was no scale. It was pretty much a 0. And a lot of opinions were stating that quite possibly it was a draw. Nothing got accomplished. What's your take?
I think Biden won for 3 reasons. Number one,
Okay.
that he was even there to start with.
Okay.
Number two, that he lasted for an hour and a half without having to go pee. And number three, his eyes never glazed over, from what I understand. He was right. He was alert, almost like they practiced for this bout. Trump would be disqualified, from what I understand. I didn't watch a second of it, but he'd have been disqualified for just butting in so much.
Yeah.
Somebody told me, they said that the Donald was doing well for about the first 7 minutes. And if his ego, which is his biggest problem, other than causing us problems as citizens, if his ego wasn't so big, he'd have just kept it at that level and he'd have blown Joe out of the box. But he had to then go into his narcissistic, egotistic mode and just destroy his own position.
Yeah.
You got to be real narcissistic to be able to not know that you're screwing your own debate up.
Yeah. It's like a football game where you are leading 7-0 with an early touchdown and you nurse the game. You hold a 7-0 lead all the way to the last 7 minutes of a football game in the fourth quarter, and you give up 3 field goals.
Right.
So if you can say that Biden won, he won 9-7 on 3 little patsy 20-yard field goals. So,
but somebody was asking me even before it happened a couple of days ago. Said, Richard, you're going to watch the debates. I said, just quickly, I had to say, as an intercollegiate debater, it offends me to call that bullshit that they do a debate to start with. It is not a debate, even if they were civil guys, if they were talking nicely to each other. A debate has some sort of parameters. In a debate, a person might get questions, and then from that, you have a response to, you have a positive and a negative. But what they're doing here is really not a debate. It's a show of perpetuating the bipartisan party for the past 20 years. In 1988, Ron Paul qualified to be in the debates. In 1988, they dropped the debates and said, we will have no debates. Because at that point, Ron Paul was the Libertarian candidate for president.
right.
Then they took it and turned it over to a group. It was supposedly a third-party neutral group. And that group, I forget what they call themselves, something, a committee on presidential debates. Basically, it was a bipartisan Republican-Democrat group that subsequently, in recent years, they found out had made deals to say, don't let any other party get in here. We let Ross Perot in because he had a lot of money, but don't let any third party in. And we also, it was a restraint of trade under the Bankruptcy Act. And that case is in the mix right now. Federal district court person, a judge kicked it out under no real law, but then the appeal is going to the Court of Appeals. So basically, that fiasco that was going on could have really cleared a lot of people's minds up if they'd have had the candidate who is on the ballot in all 50 states right now, the only female presidential candidate running right now. If they'd have had Joe Joergensen, that's J-O, that's not J-O-E. Joe Biden is there, but Joe Joergensen in the mix.
Hold up your sign.
Okay, because they didn't want to do that. They said, no, we can't have anybody else in because we already made that deal 15 or 20 years ago that we could only have R's and D's in this debate.
Up a little higher.
Okay.
Higher. There you
It becomes a fiasco.
go.
It is a joke.
Yeah.
So Spike Cohen is the VP. Spike has a weird.
Cohen.
Spike used to interview before he became VP candidate for the Libertarian Party. He used to never wear a shirt when he interviewed. So somebody said, Spike, you got to shape up a little bit, man. Get a coat and tie.
Dress up.
You don't want the tie. Put the coat and the shirt on. So Spike has sounded pretty good, because I was quite disappointed when he became the VP candidate, because I thought he would be pulling Joe's. Well, we're gonna. Mike, you told me, he said, "Don't ever do that again."
Unplug your damn phone, my God.
And I did it for the cell phone, but on the other one.
Forgot the other one. Okay.
Or
let's bring him in. Maybe somebody wants to talk to us. Maybe it's a phone call. They're watching the show right now.
They're gone now.
Okay. Hey, they must have heard that we're going to take some phone calls. Okay. Hey, I was going to ask you, I want you to elaborate a little bit more about Joe Joergensen's persona. But before that, Spike Owen, he's not the same Spike Owen that played shortstop for the Boston Red Sox for a short time.
That's Owen. This is Cohen.
Cohen. I thought he said Spike Owen.
Oh, this is Cohen.
Okay, Spike Cohen. Okay. I thought you said Owen, because there was a Spike Owen to play for the Red Sox for a short time. He was a very mediocre shortstop. But you said Spike Owen. I go, isn't that the same guy to play shortstop? But so it's Spike Cohen. Spike Cohen, a good Irish fella, huh?
Right.
Okay.
So back to the so-called debate between
the
Orange Joker and Joe Biden. In case you guys who are watching the bottom line, Joe Biden and I were friends years ago in Syracuse Law School, and Joe Biden said that he was going to become president of the United States way back then, and he predicted he would be the youngest United States senator ever, and he did become the youngest United States senator ever, because he was elected prior to he even becoming 35 years old, which you have to be under the Constitution.
Right.
But then he had the tragedy with his wife, Nelia, who we knew well, and their daughter were killed in a car accident with the two boys, Bo and Hunter, were in that same car. And then years later, obviously, after Joe becomes famous, everybody knows him, at least in Delaware, too. Everybody knows Joe Biden throughout the country because he's VP. He doesn't answer his letters anymore. I sent him letters. I called Joe, doesn't answer anymore.
He blew you off, huh?
He figured out
it's like some of the media people that I was friends with in the early days of radio, TV, and film. Some of them just disappear. You send them an email or a Facebook message, and they don't respond. And I have to be guilty. I've done that a few times, not deliberately, but it's like somebody will send me something, I just don't remember who it is, that kind of thing. So, but Joe should remember you, because who would not forget? Who would forget, I should say, the great Richard Boddie. But so he's on a different tier now, and he's not returning your letters. And because I was going to ask you if you were able to keep in touch with him. So let's move on. Before we move into the debate, we've kind of already covered it, and it's pretty self-explanatory. But I have to say one thing. A lot of people are not happy with Chris Wallace's moderating. They said there should have been somebody else. Maybe the second debate, that if it does happen either live or virtual, there'll be somebody else. I don't even know who the second person is, but they said he's supposed to be a little bit better than Chris Wallace. So let me get you to elaborate on Joe Joergensen. What's her persona? What is she all about? Is she the kind of person we could sway our way to put the check marker X in that box for the Libertarian ticket?
I think so. If a person even heard her speak, if you look at what Joe Biden and Donald Trump are talking about on a daily basis, and things that people are getting tired of, like the troops spread out all over the world and young kids dying still for the past 20 years for a war that was only going to last a couple months, with an economy that's going to crash as a direct result of a man-made, political-made crisis, where they shifted the burden of the entire national debt over $20 trillion. They shifted it over to a virus by saying, we have to shut everything down. They knew that if you shut things down, you would then have the problem you have. And it's a bigger problem than most people want to even think about. Joe Joergensen, just on those two things alone, would have said, number one, bring the troops home. That's what Donald Trump had promised in his campaign in 2016. And then the neocons got to him and he changed his mind. And Donald's easily changed his mind quickly, because it's not he's getting paid off. It's just that if it affects his ego, he'll reverse on it. But also, on the second point, the debt is something that neither of them are talking about. And Joe Joergensen would lay it out very carefully to anybody who's listening. And don't even have to listen, just go online and bring up Joe Joergensen, libertarian.
Well, up higher. There you go. There you go. Perfect.
I can't.
Joe Joergensen. Yeah, it's hard for you to see, but I can see. Yeah, Joe Joergensen, Libertarian for President 2020 with Spike Cohen, not Spike Owen, but Spike Cohen.
But
yes.
Basically, her approach is the same as what the Libertarian platform has always said, and it has to do with non-intervention. Leave me the hell alone unless I ask for your help. Don't bankrupt me as a citizen when I'm minding my business, working hard. And basically, it comes down to a really simple concept that most Americans do understand but reject. It's called live and let live. Mm-hmm. That's what she's talking about. You bet the other guys aren't. They're just hollering at each other.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff that each of them said. I read the newspaper the next day. Since I'm an old guy, I read newspapers instead of go with my thumbs on a device. And they, in effect, said that both of them were making stuff up. And they not spell check, but truth check or fact check.
Fact check, yeah.
Fact check. And both of them were just so far out. When they would make a point, the point most of the time was not true. They're showboating. And there was one national reporter on TV who used the word shit. This is a shit show, I think she said.
Yeah, it was Dana Bash, I believe.
That takes some. She was really pissed.
Yeah. Yeah, it was definitely your basic debacle, and a lot of people tuned in. Tons of viewers thinking it was going to be either like that, the way it turned out, or they thought it would be a little bit better. I'm expecting a little more cordialness with Mike Pence and Kamala Harris when they do their VP debates here coming up shortly. By the way, before we continue on, we do have a couple of new sponsors here on Mike Carlucci's The Bottom Line from the CBI Network and courtesy of YouTube. Here's one of our sponsors, Klondike, the crunch bar that you need, especially when it's 100 degrees and you need something refreshing and cool. It's Klondike. They have different flavors, but this is my favorite, Klondike's Crunch. And also another sponsor we have here, one of your favorites, I'm sure we all ate them as kids, but they have a cereal called Hostess Twinkies by Post Cereal. So we appreciate Post and Hostess Twinkies cereal, lots of sugar, and we appreciate the sponsorship of this version and episode of Mike Carlucci's The Bottom Line. We are here with Richard Boddie, political activist, political fame person for the Libertarian Party from many handful of decades ago, and a Joe Joergensen supporter, and giving us another option for the presidential race there in the Libertarian Party. Joe Joergensen running on the ticket along with Spike Cohen as her VP. Back to the debate. We'll wrap that up here in this segment of that particular topic, I should say. So what do we expect, Richard, in this second debate? We don't know if it's going to be live yet in the sense, well, it's going to be live, not live in person, but maybe virtual. Donald Trump, of course, being tested positive for COVID-19, along with the First Lady and some White House aides. What do you expect in the second debate?
And I suspect a lot less hollering back and forth because the public is already on the edge. And if either of those candidates stop to think about how stupid they looked and how bad internationally we look as a nation, there's going to be a little pushback on their attitude. And they may have to deal with some real issues. But mind you, they will not touch on the debt, which is the real pandemic today.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because the first debate last week, a lot of firepower on both sides, especially Trump after 7 minutes, just bang, 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 do this, do that, just shooting bullets in the air. And Biden would just sit there going, well, he took a couple shots, but then he would bring up and then he would come back with his defense, calling him a clown and being a little irritating. So definitely an irritating evening. And of course, we had tons of sports on. So the smart ones were probably watching tons of baseball here. The wild card series, there was like 8 games on it. It's a record in Major League Baseball to have that many games in the playoffs ever played. 8 games on. So you had the choice. I think, let's say Monday Night Football, obviously, because it was a Tuesday. So there was no football on. But if there was, people would have been watching football. But, there was the basketball finals, right? Game 1, I believe. Yeah. I think it was game one, wasn't it? Yeah. Anyway, there was tons of sports on, so you could have just, avoided the catastrophe there on ABC and went to the sports route. Speaking of which, we'll stay on the politics topic, but I just want to say, hey, your Yankees are looking pretty good here. They're getting hot at the right time. And what a series is going to be, huh? Tampa Bay and the Yankees in that NLDS begins tomorrow. That should be pretty exciting.
I was impressed by the fact when they were behind, they did something I haven't done in probably a decade. They played small ball.
Yeah, they haven't done it in a while.
Down by a run. Score was, I think, 9-8.
Mm-hmm.
And it was going to the ninth inning. And
yeah,
they did some small ball. They were knocking on the ground. They were They always have been able to wait, even from Joe Torre and Joe, what's his name just now, who was a Phillies manager.
Joe Girardi.
Girardi. Yeah. Those two Joes taught him how to wait on a pitch, but they weren't teaching him how to get the ball through the hole. And in this last game, when they came from behind in Cleveland, really broke their heart. And they did small ball, base stealing, and some good stuff.
Yeah, they were playing Whitey Herzog style ball.
There you
That's
go.
the way Whitey would play. But anyway, back to politics. Here we go. So we got that squared away, the debate. Waiting for the second one. We'll see how it goes, if it's going to be live in person, because I think they said if Trump is okay health-wise in 10 days, he might be okay. We'll see how that goes. We're waiting, of course, for the vice presidential debate, and that'll be kind of exciting because I think you have two cordial people that won't be yelling at each other, and they'll just hopefully state the facts. We don't know much about Kamala Harris, how she is going to be producing herself. We'll kind of be on edge of the seat to see how she reacts. So anyway, let's what's that? Go ahead. You got a comment there? Go ahead.
Comes out as the cop that she's been for the past decade, or whether she comes out as the progressive, because she's a consummate politician where she can become whatever she wants to be. And that's why she's there, because she hated Joe Biden and said he was a racist.
Yeah.
And she's his running mate. That's scary stuff.
And then when she was asked about that, she just looks the other way and says, I like Joe Biden. That's her answer. It's elaborating. So we'll see how it goes. We're all going to look forward to the vice presidential debate, no doubt. I was going to ask you about now. Let's talk about the pandemic. It's been situated now that it's been getting better in some states. It's kind of increasing, but the major states the bigger ones, I should say, that had issues, it's starting to deplete a little bit, which is a good sign. Some of those other states, though, are getting a little too soft and unsafe, and they've been becoming the numbers have been increasing. But is it a pandemic or is it a plandemic?
I bet the latter, as information keeps coming out, for one reason alone. I saw something dated 2017 by Dr. Fauci at a conference at Georgetown University in Washington, D.C. on epidemics. And he said something along the effect that President Trump is going to have a surprise epidemic within his first term that is going to be something that's going to knock his socks off. How would Fauci know that in 2017?
Ooh.
Ouch.
You're giving all those novelists out there an idea to write a novel about this, a little Tom Clancy type book, huh?
The beauty of today is that people can Google that. In the old days, if I'd said that, they say, oh, he's just full of crap. But the beauty of that is that they can Google it now and see the very thing I saw with Fauci's picture on it. And it's not like something that somebody invented to throw in there to sidetrack you. Fauci, picture, article, specifically where it was at Georgetown University, a conference regarding people like Fauci, who made the prediction specifically regarding Trump in his first term, will have a different or a more serious epidemic of, I think he identified it as a virus. I'm not absolutely sure of that. But the fact is, from 2017, I asked, how would he know what Trump is going to have in 2020 when it comes to a virus? That's pretty suspect. Yeah. So,
well, that's interesting. So, plandemic? Question mark right there, no doubt. So, Let's talk about, I want to save some topics for another show, but I want to go right into the propositions that are coming up on the ballot. All right, let's move on to Proposition 15 and 16, and then we'll close it out today.
15 is the proposition here in California that is talking about split roll.
Mhm.
Back in 77, Proposition 13 was passed by the voters that said, if you own a home and you own a building, whether you're a business or an individual, if you keep that home or that building, whatever the tax on it is what it will be until you sell it. When it's sold, then it can be reappraised.
Okay.
Now, that's been in place for several years, 40 years or whatever. And since the politicians in California are searching for money they can find anywhere, shape, or form, and still give it to a train that goes to nowhere and stuff like that, they're looking for more money. So they're saying, corporations who own buildings or own property, real estate, should not be covered under this exemption where they don't have to pay the value of the land tax, even if they don't sell it. We should now have a way where we can reevaluate or reappraise commercial corporate ownership and assess it based upon what the assessor says it's worth today.
Okay.
Basically, it's saying we're going to take the protection away that we're having for individual people in their own homes. It's all 15 is saying. We want to get more money, and we get it from the wealthy corporations who own these buildings. If it passes, then they'll do that. The problem is the next go round, there'll be a proposition that says, we got to change the assessment on individual people also because we need more money. So it's just a slow process to do away with Proposition 13.
Yeah.
It says you can't take anybody's, you can't reevaluate the taxes on an individual home unless you pass a law that's 3/4 of the, anyway, you can't do it. But we can get a proposition that will take the business part out, and then we can use that to reappraise. And the people, you're all right. We're not going to reevaluate if you're still in your home, and if we're not going to reassess your home. It's not logical because they'll take money anybody can get it. And
you better believe it. Yeah.
So if 15 passes, that means look up next year and there'll be one coming that'll deny they're trying to take individuals protection from 13 away.
Another
and people
problem,
be dumb enough to probably do that too.
Mm-hmm.
So I oppose 15 because it's sleight of hand, and it's the way it's written. It's not truthful.
It's catchy. Yeah,
they're telling. They're telling a lie. The attorney general who wrote the wording of it, it's fooling people. The ad on TV is talking about big corporations, about blah 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 blah. No, that ain't what it's about. It's about trying to save Proposition 13. Right. And so split roll. Everybody who's looking for more money for the state loves it. People who are trying to save their homes, they say, well, if it's not going to bother us, it's okay. Mm-hmm. But once you start tinkering with it, it's gone.
Right.
So I'm opposed to 15.
Okay.
Now 16 is the hooker here.
What's that?
16 is the toughie now.
I was going to ask you about that. Yeah. Proposition 16. What's that about?
16 is the one that wants to do away with the constitutional provision that was put in 1994, I believe, which was Proposition 209 that says the state of California cannot use race or religion or creed or color or anything like that to give privilege to anyone to get a job, to go to school, to do anything regarding the state of California. It's called Colorblind. Mm-hmm. And it passed and became a part of the Constitution. It said, when it comes to public institutions, we're not going to allow you to play the affirmative action game here, which comes out to be preferential treatment to certain groups of people. Mm-hmm. And the people who are also saying this is not a good idea to change this back to the way it was are Asians who are getting ripped from top to bottom in academia, in universities and colleges in California.
Oh, yeah.
Not so much in jobs because they own their own businesses generally, but in academia, if it's a California institution of higher education, the fact that this provision is in the Constitution really protects Asians where they're going to be accepted based upon their merit and not upon preferential treatment. That's the whole reason the thing came into place. That's why Ward Conley fought tooth and nail to have it become a part of the Constitution. The group opposing said, well, we're only 7 states who believe this, who are doing it this way. Well, fine, whether 7 or not. California's Constitution says no preferential treatment to anybody based upon race, sexual orientation, color, creed, whether you can dance fast or not. None of that stuff. We're going to take it based upon whether you deserve to be based upon your merit.
There you go.
So 16 should not pass.
So we've got them in the nutshell. We got Prop 15 and 16. Good elaboration there, Mr. Richard Boddie. We have some other topics here. I want to get on another show. In fact, we'll do one next week. I want to talk more about Black Lives Matter and the Breonna Taylor case. We'll get that inform a discussion. And also we wanted to talk about distance learning in the schools, both elementary, junior high, high school, and of course the college level. We'll chat that in full form next time we meet up. So Richard, we'll pick it up next week and add those other topics that we kind of teased, and we'll get going. And you, my friend, you look great. By the way, I want to see your T-shirt. What does it say there? There you go. I'm a Republican, Democrat, and awake. I like that. And of course, I liked your bumper sticker. Republicans or Democrats, choose your poison was always a good one. So, in fact, I think I have a picture here. I'll squeeze it in there. Okay, Richard, you have yourself a super weekend, and always good chatting with you, my friend. You look great. Keep your health up there, and say hi to the missus for me. And any final closing words?
Yeah, persist.
There you go. We'll look forward to chatting with those topics we teased, and of course, we'll hopefully chat about the upcoming debates, either virtual and of course the VP debate as well. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining in. Mike Carlucci's The Bottom Line from the CBI Network and on YouTube. And by the way, as always, grab that shovel, right, Richard? Stick it in the ground, pull it up, and see if you can find something there. And if you do, you know you have found the bottom line. Mike Carlucci's Bottom Line, brought to you by the good folks of Klondike and, of course, Winkies cereal. Very good. Until next time, folks, equality for all. Be safe, be healthy, and please do wear that damn mask, as Chris Wallace says. Wear that damn mask. Until next time, thanks for tuning in to Mike Carlucci's The Bottom Line. Ciao for now. See you, Richard.
Thank you, Mike.